Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CT Cloud Podcast. I'm your host, Kate Herbert. With us today, again, we have William Rubio. William is the CRO here at CallTower. And William, today we're going to be talking a little bit about XCaaS, which is a term that we've been hearing only in the last few months or so, which is kind of, from what I hear, is the combination of UCaaS, of course, Unified Communication as a Service, and CCaaS, which is Contact Center as a Service. Can you tell us a little bit more about what XCaaS is?
Sure. Okay, thanks again for having me on today. And it's kind of a new lingo that's been kind of circulating around in the industry overall. But XCaaS is really the combination of UCaaS, which is Unified Communications as a Service, which is really more your instant messaging,
Right.
your primary voice provider, your presence information, your voicemail, those type of specific features. And then the CCaaS is more of your contact center as a service, right? So that's when you kind of get into more of the call recording, call queuing, barge, whisper, call
Okay.
compliance, those type of things. So it's really the combination of unified communications and CCaaS together, which is kind of unique. I mean, we're starting to see now that a lot of organizations are demanding and requiring is probably the better word, that
Hmm.
the providers are actually providing both solutions together because they're so integrated into the success of any business
Right.
that
Yeah.
customers no longer say, well, I want to get my CCaaS from one provider and my UCaaS from another. They're saying, no, we want kind of more of a one-stop shop because these solutions have to work well together and it's critical for my success of my business. And we're not starting, we've been seeing that demand for a while, but now I would say, especially post-COVID, we're seeing that demand even increase more.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of companies are really kind of taking a really close look at. Obviously, UCAS has been seeing a big jump in the COVID era, but even contact center, like people want to be able to handle their problems in house, and they want to have that mesh really well. And if someone calls in with a problem, they don't want to have to deal with multiple systems to get them to the right place. So I could see why XCAS would be a big deal, especially from just purely a technological standpoint, just to be able to move stuff into the right position for employees to solve problems, right? So
Yeah,
that
it's technologically better. At the same time, what you're starting to see organizations or probably I would say departments working more together hand in hand. So for example, you might have a support organization that is using CCaaS, right? I mean, that's
mhm,
kind of common in a support type of organization. But and then all of a sudden the support individual, that agent that's on the CCaaS platform, needs to reach out to somebody who is in the company but is not part of the CCaaS solution, or vice versa. And those two need to kind of understand and communicate back and forth on what's going on, whether they want to add them to the call or add them to the conference call that's going on, or vice versa. So you need to have make sure that those platforms are working together simultaneously, one and one with each other, because it just makes a difference when you're trying to pull in people that are not in your CCaaS platform. So, for example, with our solutions, whether it's our CT Cloud Voice
mhm.
or our CT Cloud Contact Center, excuse me, or our 5.9 solution, with our both great solutions, if I want to pull in somebody that is not a 5.9 licensed agent into the solution because I need them to talk, I want to be able to go ahead and do that. And when you're looking at XCaaS, that's really what XCaaS is about: is pulling in people that are in a different platform, so that they can help solve the issues and pretty much get resolution right then and there. And that's really important to customers. That's why you're seeing that demand of UCaaS and CCaaS together.
Right, and that customer experience being a little bit more seamless is kind of where the X of UCAS comes from. It's the customer experience, communication as a service. So that makes sense. So what does that look like from an ROI perspective? I imagine there might be some associated costs with having a system that combines those two. Do you save money by instead kind of bundling things together instead of having two separate services, or is tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I think there is always an opportunity, with the synergies that are involved, that there are some economies of scale included in there that can probably provide some price compression overall when you're looking at your spend on what you have on both UCaaS and CCaaS together. So I think there is some benefit there. I mean, I know probably the biggest thing outside of the integration on the technology side is really just kind of more of that partner or that vendor relationship. I think that that's really important overall, that when you're doing something like that, you don't have to worry about managing more than one invoice. You don't have to worry about having more than one support. So everything is a little bit more streamlined in the sense that your resolution in case of any issues or any changes that you want to make seem to be a lot faster. And there's always seems to be a lot less glitches that could happen when you have one core platform or two core platforms integrated together by one solution provider like CallTower. I think that that really makes a big difference. Whether it's our customers on UCaaS for Microsoft Teams, for
Mm-hmm.
C Cloud Voice, or for Cisco, and on Cisco, whether it's WebEx calling or UCM or HCS, all the different voice options we have connecting into our CT Cloud Contact Center and our 5.9 solution, they just work well together, hand in hand. And we're seeing more of that demand on a daily basis from potential customers coming to us saying, I want both. And we're not just seeing that on the small to medium sized customer, but also we're seeing it on the enterprise customer that's pretty much now adopting going into the cloud for both platforms, for both UCaaS and CCaaS, and moving away more from a premise-based solution. So they're saying, if I'm going into the cloud, I'm going all in because I want to make sure that I have that business continuity, that disaster recovery, and that flexibility from one provider instead of having to manage multiple providers.
That makes a lot of sense from both perspectives, from smaller businesses to enterprise. It makes sense that you would want to be able to have, as our friend Jake Butterbaugh from 5.9 said, one throat to choke. One person, one point of contact to make sure that everything is running smoothly, instead of trying to have your XCaaS or your CCaaS provider and your UCaaS provider at each other's throats. That leads to a lot of confusion, I imagine. So
it does, and we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, and we had mentioned this. I think it was on one of our other calls, or maybe one of the webinars that we did. That we're starting to see CCaaS kind of drive the decision for organizations more often than in the past. Before it was UCaaS first and CCaaS second because it was always a subset within your organization. But now, even though it's still that subset within your organization, so you might have 1,000 employees or 500 employees, and then maybe 50 or 100 contact center agents. And again, obviously the majority was the one that was driving the decision. But now you're seeing the opposite, that the 50 or those 100 agents, since they're driving so much growth in the
mm-hmm.
business, that's driving the decision. And UCaaS, it's kind of have to say more like an afterthought. Probably not the
Yeah.
best, but it's kind of like, oh, that's secondary because we got to make sure that our CCaaS is working correctly, and XCaaS is just really evolving from that.
Very interesting. All right. Well, a great perspective on kind of where things are going with this kind of new XCaaS phenomenon. I think we'll probably have to have a follow up on this one pretty soon, because I feel like things are changing so much. We'll definitely want to touch base on the world of XCaaS again shortly. So, William, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and all of our listeners appreciate you joining us. Thank you, and we will be back shortly with a new episode. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, Kate. Take care, everybody.